Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall here. I hope that you are ready for Mark chapter 12, Jesus' last story in the Gospel of Mark. That seems important. Well, before we look at his story, what are your stories? What is your family's favorite story to tell on you? When they tell a story about your childhood, what is their favorite story to tell about you? Just take turns and tell some stories. Why do you think that Jesus used stories? Why do you think that he used parables as one of his primary teaching methods? And why do you think that he used a parable on this occasion? Can you identify the 5 main characters in this story? Just take a moment as a group and outline them. What stories do you know from the Old Testament where Israel made life difficult for God's prophets? In this story, God sent servants, and the Israelites, the tenants, did different things to them. What are some stories you know from the Old Testament where the Israelites were cruel to God's prophets? And how does the church make life difficult for modern day prophets, for men and women that preach a hard line? How does the church make it difficult for them? How do you handle it when someone doesn't fulfill their contractual obligations with you? What is your reaction when someone violates a contract that they made with you? And what do you think of the Father's reaction to his contractual obligation violations? That's a mouthful. What do you think of the Father's response to the tenants of voiding his contract? What was the Father's logic in sending his Son? What do you think of this logic? What do you think of his choice to send his Son? What did the tenants hope to gain by killing the Son? And what do you think that the Jewish leaders hoped to gain by killing Jesus? What does this story teach us about God, the Father? What does this story teach us about us, God's unique creation? And what does this story teach us about Jesus, God's Son? And then, what do you think that secular people would say if you asked them about judgment and hell? And what do you think that would be necessary for them to accept the truth, the biblical truth of judgment and hell? Well, every week we just want to remember application. This week we're talking about rebellion. What does rebellion look like right now in my life? Am I willing to change? Well, I hope that you have a great group, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday as we get closer and closer to the cross and to Easter. God bless.